everyone, and welcome. You are watching Eagle News America. I'm Anna Cui, coming to you from Las Vegas, Nevada. It is Tuesday evening here, March 30th, 2021. Tonight, we have updates from several of our correspondents across North America, starting with Thomas Likeness in Edmonton, Alberta.
Which COVID vaccine do you think people trust the most?
Angel Membrere in Sacramento reports about California's COVID-19 vaccination eligibility to broaden and the state preparing for the upcoming fire season. Carlo Valdez in Union Township reports about New Jersey establishing in-person early voting. And for business news, Bobby Soriano reports about ships resuming travel through the Suez Canal and Google announcing new features for maps. Plus, for ABC Sports, EJ Gonzalez in Alexandria, Virginia.
Elite teams fight to advance in the NCAA tournament, and Russell Westbrook makes triple-double history yet again.
And Tenny Sumagi in New York reports about Karl Anthony Towns getting emotional on his father's first Timberwolves game since his mother's death to COVID. And Kyrie Irving returning to the Nets lineup. Melissa Allen in Lakeland tells us about Florida manatee deaths soaring this year. And EBC friend Ethel Constantino reaches out to the homeless in North Carolina. Our coverage begins now. We start with a very disturbing report. New York police were searching Tuesday for a man who violently attacked an Asian American woman as witnesses seemingly looked on without intervening. The latest incident of anti-Asian violence in the United States. The footage you are about to see contains graphic content. The attack, which took place on a sidewalk in broad daylight in Midtown Manhattan on Monday, was caught on CCTV footage from inside an adjacent building. In the video posted online by police, the man can be seen walking up to the 65-year-old woman and kicking her in the stomach, knocking her to the ground. He then kicks her several times in the head before walking away. The video also shows a man who appears to be a delivery worker watching the attack unfold from inside the building. He is then joined by two other men, one of whom closes the door rather than coming to the woman's aid as the assailant walks away. The attacker has not been identified, and police have appealed for anyone with information to come forward. The victim, whose identity has not been released, was hospitalized with multiple injuries, including a broken pelvis. Police said she was in a stable condition Tuesday. In a statement, the NYPD said the attacker made anti-Asian statements towards the victim as he kicked her. It added that the force's hate crime task is investigating the assault. The same unit is still looking for another man who struck a woman in the face in a subway station on Saturday night. The woman was not seriously injured and declined any medical assistance. New York and other U.S. cities have seen an upsurge in crime against people of Asian descent since the start of the coronavirus pandemic. U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken warns that human rights are declining around the world and condemns abuses in China, Myanmar, Yemen, and other nations.
We see evidence that in every region of the world, this is happening. We see it in the genocide being committed against the predominantly Muslim Uyghurs and other ethnic and religious minority groups in Xinjiang. The attacks on and the imprisonment of opposition politicians, anti-corruption activists, independent journalists in places like Russia, Uganda, Venezuela. We see it in the arbitrary arrests, beatings, and other violence against protesters in Belarus, and in the violations and abuses inflicted on the people of Yemen by the parties in that country's conflict. We condemn these and other widespread violations by Burma's security forces in the strongest terms. And we continue to call on the military regime to release all those people who've been unjustly detained, stop its attacks on civil society members, journalists, labor unionists, halt the killings by its security forces, and return to power the democratically elected government. Standing up for human rights everywhere is in America's interests. And the Biden-Harris administration will stand against human rights abuses wherever they occur, regardless of whether the perpetrators are adversaries or partners. We know we have work to do at home. That includes addressing profound inequities including systemic racism. We don't pretend these problems don't exist or try to sweep them under the rug. We don't ignore them. We deal with them in the daylight with full transparency. And in fact, that's exactly what separates our democracy from autocracies, our ability and willingness to confront our own shortcomings out in the open.
Meanwhile, the teenager who took the viral video of George Floyd's death told the trial on Tuesday off the white police officer charged with killing the 46-year-old black man that she regrets not being able to save his life. 18-year-old Darnelia Frazier was among the witnesses who provided emotional testimony on Tuesday at the high-profile trial of former Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin. 44-year-old Chauvin is charged with murder and manslaughter for his role in Floyd's May 25, 2020 death, which was captured on video by Frazier and seen by millions, sparking anti-racism protests around the globe. In the stomach-churning video, Chauvin is seen kneeling on Floyd's neck for more than 9 minutes. As the handcuffed Floyd complains that he can't breathe and eventually falls unconscious.
I have a black father, I have a black brother, I have black friends. And I look at that and I look at how that could have been one of them. It's been nights I stayed up apologizing and apologizing to George Floyd for not doing more and not physically interacting and not saving his life. But it's like, it's not what I should have done, it's what he should have done.
Frazier described Floyd as scared and terrified and begging for his life.
I heard George Floyd saying, I can't breathe, please get off of me, I can't breathe. He cried for his mom. He was in pain. It seemed like he knew. It seemed like he knew it was over for him. He was terrified. He was suffering. This was a cry for help, definitely.
And what did you hear or see Mr. Floyd doing while he was being restrained underneath, as you described, the knee of Mr. Chauvin?
He was complaining about, he was stating that he was in pain. He said his neck, his back, everything hurts. I can't breathe. Mom, he said I would get up if I could, something around that. I wouldn't say that's his exact words. But yeah, pretty much he was saying how much in pain he was. He couldn't breathe.
Now for COVID news. The United States led a chorus of concern from a group of nations on Tuesday over a WHO-backed report into the origins of the coronavirus. In China, with accusations swirling that Beijing failed to give proper access to the investigators. Take a look.
We agree, and we have long said, as I just stated, it lacks crucial data, information, it lacks access, it lacks transparency. It certainly, we don't believe that in our review to date that it meets the moment, it meets the impact that this pandemic has had on the global community. I expect we'll let our review conclude and then we'll look for an opportunity for him to speak to it, but I can certainly confirm for you that he shares these concerns. They are coming directly from him and directly from our national security team, who has looked at what the report has presented to date. They're still reviewing and share the concerns issued in that statement that made those concerns clear.
The U.S. released a statement with 13 of its allies, Britain, Japan, and Australia among them, saying the inquiry had lacked the data and samples it needed.
I think what the statement makes clear is that we remain, that was issued by the State Department today, is that we remain confident in the role of the WHO. We look to be a contributing member of the WHO. We have some concerns, as I've expressed, about the analysis that's been done so far about the report, and we think that steps can be taken moving forward in the second stage of the review to ameliorate some of those.
World Health Organization Chief Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus had earlier made a similar criticism, saying the international team he dispatched to Wuhan had found it difficult to get raw data during the mission. Neither Tedros nor the U.S.-led statement mentioned China directly, but the country's foreign ministry hit back at the perceived criticism from the WHO chief, saying that Beijing had fully demonstrated its openness, transparency, and responsible attitude. The ministry said in a statement, to politicize this issue will only severely hinder global cooperation in study of origins, jeopardize anti-pandemic cooperation, and cost more lives. Without naming China, the European Union called the report a helpful first step and highlighted the need to further work, urging relevant authorities to help. But Mike Pompeo, the former top U.S. diplomat under Donald Trump, blasted it as a sham and part of a disinformation campaign, accusing the WHO of being in cahoots with the Chinese Communist Party. In other news, President Joe Biden touts the progress of the U.S. vaccination campaign against COVID-19, but warns Americans not to let our guard down now and risk a setback in the vaccination program.
So we're moving toward 90-90 by April 19th. That is by April 19th, 3 weeks from today, 90% of adults, people over 18 and over, will be eligible to get vaccinated. 90% of all Americans will be living within 5 miles of a place they can get a shot. Over the last 3 days, we've had a record number of shots in arms with over 10 million shots recorded in the weekend. Over 10 million shots in 3 days. That would have been inconceivable in January. We could still see a setback in the vaccination program. And most importantly, if we let our guard down now, we could see a virus getting worse, not better.
Biden warns Americans the battle to beat COVID-19 is far from won and urges people to pay heed to virus warnings as the country stood on the brink of a possible fourth wave.
I'm reiterating my call for every governor, mayor, and local leader to maintain and reinstate the mask mandate. Please, this is not politics. Reinstate the mandate if you let it down. And business should require masks as well.
And now for today's COVID-19 numbers. According to the Coronavirus Resource Center of Johns Hopkins University in Medicine, as of 6 p.m. Eastern Time Tuesday, March 30, 2021, the number of cases of COVID-19 reported worldwide is now more than 128 million. Top 3 on the list of countries with recorded cases: U.S. more than 30,385,000, Brazil more than 12,573,000, and India more than 12,095,000. Sadly, this virus has now already claimed more than 2,797,000 lives worldwide. Top 3 countries with the most number of COVID-19 related deaths are U.S. more than 550,903,000, Brazil more than 313,000, and Mexico more than 201,000. Up next, reports from Edmonton, Alberta, New Jersey, and California. Eagle News America continues. Stay with us.
Factual.
We have to defeat the virus everywhere.
Timely information. Balanced, not only in the country, but also abroad.
I'm certain of one thing.
Interviews that people need to know. Watch Aguila Pilipinas, a 1-hour newscast of reports coming from regional hubs in Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. Know the important updates in Asia in ASEAN in Focus. Track the latest stories in the provinces in Aguila Provincia. Tune into Mata ng Agila, the evening primetime news program of Net25. Balanced and objective, Mata ng Agila covers national and international issues, tackles news on business, health, science, and technology, entertainment, sports and human interest features, and current events. And Eagle News International delivers the latest global reports, impartial, accessible, and up-to-date. It brings to fore EBC's rich international scope and access to valuable information streams.
Well, thank you to explain our health outdoor.
Catch these programs on Net25. You can also watch our news programs through eaglenews.ph and Eagle News Facebook page and YouTube channel.
You're watching Eagle News America. I'm Anna Cui in Las Vegas. A public poll finds out what COVID-19 vaccines most Americans and Canadians trust most. In Alberta, Thomas Likeness joins us this evening with the details. Thomas?
Well, thank you, Anna. And you know I like to keep my finger on the pulse of what North Americans are thinking. And, I subscribe to a number of public opinion polls and other such reports. The one we're talking about today comes from the polling firm Leger. It surveyed people in Canada and the United States. Simply, one of the questions they were simply asked was, what COVID vaccines do you trust? In both countries, Pfizer was the #1 choice. In the United States, 63% put their trust in Pfizer, but a much wider margin in Canada, 83%. Next was Moderna, which won the trust of 58% of Americans, 77% of Canadians. Johnson & Johnson, also trusted by 58% of Americans and 69% of Canadians. Last place, though, goes to AstraZeneca. Now, just over half of Canadians asked, 53%, say they trust it, but in the United States, only 37%, that's just over a third, just over 1 out of 3 people say they have faith in the AstraZeneca vaccine. AstraZeneca's rollout has had a rough ride. There were initial questions about its effectiveness in older people. South Africa refused a shipment of it, saying it didn't offer protection against the South African variant. Here in Canada, initially, it was not used on people over 65, and just yesterday, its use was suspended on people under 55, and this is because of the risk of a rare blood clot. Now, only last week, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau was touting the effectiveness of this formula and telling people, take it if it's offered. Today, reporters asked him, does he regret giving that advice?
The advice given by health professionals, the advice that I gave, was that the right vaccine for you is the very first vaccine that is offered. And Health Canada continues to ensure the safety and effectiveness of any vaccine administered in Canada. As we've seen over the past number of weeks, there are different recommendations and limitations given in as the science evolves. But every step of the way, the recommendations that Health Canada makes and that I and other politicians pass along, because none of us are vaccine experts, but we are there to help amplify the messages by Health Canada that vaccines are safe and effective and that everyone needs to get vaccinated with whatever vaccine is offered to them as quickly as possible.
And that's where we're at here, trying to get everybody immunized as quickly as possible amid a shortage of vaccine. We're on the cusp of a third wave of the pandemic here in Canada. Case numbers up. More people are in hospital, a lot of them in intensive care. Some provinces bringing back restrictions, and with the holiday weekend coming up, there are fears we may be looking, just like other holiday weekends, we may be looking at a surge in cases in a couple of weeks. Trudeau again has that familiar message.
Again this year, we won't have the kinds of celebrations we were all hoping for because we just can't afford to let our guard down. I know I've said the same thing before every major holiday over the past year, but this time, what's different is that even if the end of the pandemic is in sight, the variants mean the situation is even more serious. We're entering the final stretch of this crisis. We just need to stay strong a little longer. More and more vaccine doses are coming every week, so there's reason to be hopeful. So please, keep yourself and your loved ones safe. Now is not the time to travel. Avoid gatherings and parties, and continue to keep your distance. I know it's not easy, but together we will get through this.
Remember, that light we see at the end of the tunnel down there? It may be appearing to be closer than it really is. It's a long tunnel. In Edmonton, Canada, Thomas I. Likeness, Eagle News. We live in interesting times. Back to you, Anna.
Thank you, Thomas, for that update. Now, can you tell us, how will the suspension of the AstraZeneca vaccine affect immunization efforts there in Canada?
Well, again, of course, the major part of the population that has to be immunized is under 55. So its effect is going to be depending on how long that pause lasts. If it's only a couple of days, there's not going to be much of a backlog. But the problem could get worse if it goes on for several weeks, because not only are people not getting immunized, but these vaccines, they're waiting in the medicine cabinet, waiting to be used. Well, they have an expiry date. And there's a chance if they sit too long, thousands of doses could end up in the dumpster. You know, Canada's ordered 20 million doses of AstraZeneca, so it's a huge part of our immunization campaign, and we don't want any of that to go to waste. Anna?
Yeah, that certainly would be unfortunate if they go to waste. Now, I know you mentioned with AstraZeneca there is that concern for blood clots in 55 and younger, I think you mentioned. What other concerns are there about this, AstraZeneca vaccine?
It's not so much about the vaccine I have a concern. It's about the controversy surrounding it. You know, AstraZeneca has been plagued by bad news since the first dose came out of the factory. And as you can see in the polling numbers we just reviewed, people don't have a lot of faith in it. Now, this survey was taken just before the Canadian government made its latest restriction on the use of the vaccine, so that trust is likely to drop further. But I wonder whether that trust is going to be like the virus itself and be a bit contagious and lead to vaccine hesitancy. And that's one thing we can't afford, because not only are people going to be hesitant about AstraZeneca, but you think about the people sitting on the fence. They're undecided. Should I get immunized? Shouldn't I get immunized? You know, they're maybe leaning one way or the other slightly, but they still haven't made up their mind. How does more uncertainty affect their decision making? With public health, probably the biggest thing you have to get the public on board, you've got to have trust. And when trust starts to erode, you're fighting a losing battle. Anna?
Yes, certainly. I mean, it's bad enough, like you said. People are hesitant about being immunized altogether, just overall. And then to hear bad things about a vaccine, the only vaccine that's available there now, that doesn't.
Well, no, actually, we've got 4 that have been approved. We haven't seen any of the Johnson & Johnson yet. We are getting Pfizer. We are getting Moderna, but they're in limited quantities. So this is yet, and it's going to be a major part of the supply that we're expecting. So yeah, it's.
Well, thank you for that. Thank you for that update. I'm a little bit behind on the vaccine availability there. But you know, I noticed Prime Minister has the same plead as President Biden here in the U.S. You know, with encouraging others, you know, don't let go right now, you know, just a little bit more. It's the same message. And then I'm sure, Thomas, you've read here some states are already lifting or have already lifted their mask mandate. How is it there? How does it compare there in Canada?
Certainly not going to happen here. We're very, very conscious about variants. They're the new enemy here. And let me give you a couple of examples. The province of British Columbia yesterday halted indoor dining, halted fitness activities, indoor religious services. They had been allowed up to 50 people, no more. And this is right before a major religious holiday for some religions. They've just been told, no, you can't do it anymore. In Ontario, doctors are saying the situation's out of control. The premier there hinting more restrictions and maybe a lockdown. That might be coming. Here in Alberta, we're watching the numbers. The Premier has said, hey, if necessary, I'm prepared to bring in more restrictions. So definitely, we're not going to be loosening anything up here. If anything, we're going to be tightening it up. Down there, you're in a bit of a different situation. You've immunized far more people than we have up here, a far greater percentage. But we have, I think we're maybe getting close to 10% being immunized, and that's so far from achieving herd immunity. You can't possibly lift these kind of public health measures and expect to win the war against COVID. Anna?
Exactly. Not with that low of a percentage yet of being immunized. Well, Thomas, thank you for your update. One more thing, though.
Oh, yes.
I was going to say. Now, here in the U.S., I think the disadvantage of, people are seeing, a lot of people are being immunized, being vaccinated. Now we're seeing, I read reports that they're seeing a decline in testing, which could be harmful, right? Because we want to continue to be able to test. And there in Canada, you mentioned about 50% of the cases are from the variants that you're seeing.
It's approaching 50%. Some provinces it is. My province, it's sitting at close to 30% and growing every day right now. So yeah, and testing is a big thing here. That's one thing they haven't slacked off on, although I've heard politicians in the past say the whole problem with this is we test too much. If we didn't test, the numbers wouldn't be high.
Well, I sure hope we learn a couple of good things from you guys, from our neighbors.
But yeah,
Thank you, Thomas, for your update, and we'll talk to you later in the show.
I look forward to it, Anna.
All right, Thomas. In California, the state's COVID-19 vaccination eligibility expands. And let's find out how the state is preparing for the upcoming fire season. In Sacramento, Bureau Chief Angel Membrere files this report.
Thank you. An update on California's blueprint for a safer economy. Counties across the state continue to move in the right direction. Fresno, Glenn, Kings, Madera, and Yuba counties have now moved to the red tier, leaving only 3 counties in the state in the purple tier. California has now administered more than 17 million COVID-19 vaccinations, and this number is expected to grow rapidly. Currently, there are certain requirements that need to be met to qualify to receive the vaccine, but that will change next month. Starting April 1st, all Californians 50 years and older will be eligible. Then on the 15th, all Californians 16 years and older will be eligible. Today, Governor Newsom and Secretary Lourdes Castro Ramirez met with the organization Monument Impact to discuss California's COVID-19 rent relief program. The aim of this program is to help renters and landlords. For renters in California, this will provide relief for unpaid rent from April 2020 along with utilities. Applications are open and being accepted through housingiskey.com. Now, as seasons change and weather continues to get hotter across the globe, Governor Newsom looks ahead to prepare the state of California. Last year was a record-breaking fire season for California, and residents are already preparing for the upcoming fire season. With that, Governor Newsom announced the authorization of over $80 million in emergency funds for both forest management and wildfires. In Sacramento, California, Angel Membrere, Eagle News, we live in interesting times.
Thank you, Angel, for that report. Meanwhile, in New Jersey, Governor Phil Murphy signed into law early voting in the state. Here's Carlo Valdez with the story.
On Tuesday, Governor Murphy signed legislation S3203, which establishes in-person early voting here in the state of New Jersey. This legislation allows registered voters to vote using machines at a designated polling place before the day of certain primary or general elections. Here's a short clip from Governor Murphy.
The law that I'm signing in a few minutes today, allowing in-person machine voting at our regular polling places, will enhance our residents' right to vote.
it's up to us, the voters of America, to stand together, whether we're in Georgia, in Texas, or in New Jersey, to say that we are one nation under God and that we are one nation whose democracy should not depend on our geography. I am so excited to be looking at New Jersey, knowing that New Jersey is taking us in the right direction.
New Jersey reminds the nation that our democracy is made stronger when we make it easier for the people's voices to be heard. That our democracy wins when we open the doors of our polling places wide instead of slamming them shut.
And as for coronavirus stats and numbers, New Jersey reports of 4,378 new positive PCR tests, pushing the total to 796,700. Sadly, New Jersey is reporting 61 new confirmed deaths, pushing the total to 21,951 lives lost. In Union Township, New Jersey, Carlo Valdez, Eagle News, we live in interesting times.
Thank you, Carlo, for your report. Still to come, business news and EBC Sports. This is Eagle News America. Stay with us.
Innovation, digital disruption, globalization, startups, micro, small, and medium enterprises, as well as large corporations, all face interesting challenges in the market today. Peek into the world of exciting opportunities and partnerships to drive growth with the latest business news and information. We are open for business. Your weekly dose of entrepreneurial inspiration to update you on the latest developments in the world of business. Get up close and personal with CEOs and thought leaders to help you discover valuable insights, sharpen your instincts for smart decision making with the latest markets and economic trends, disruptive ideas, global innovation, social entrepreneurship, and other leading-edge business ideas. Join the conversations to create a more vibrant environment for entrepreneurship. Catch Open for Business, from vision to action.
You're watching Eagle News America. I'm Anna Kui. Several stories from our business desk. Sea traffic resumes through the Suez Canal, and Google announces more features to its Maps application. EBC's Bobby Soriano files this report.
Good evening. U.S. markets have closed. Here are your latest business headlines. Ship owners, importers, and exporters all breathed a sigh of relief as sea traffic resumed through the Suez Canal yesterday. Engineers, with the help of a high tide, were able to free the Ever Given container ship Monday evening, after almost a week of being stuck within the canal. A spokesperson for the Suez Canal Authority, during a press conference, estimates that the backlog of ships looking to pass through will take 3 or 4 days to clear, with livestock and other perishable shipments taking priority. However, experts believe it will take significantly longer to process the delays in shipments caused by diverted ships bypassing the canal and taking longer routes around the continent of Africa to reach their destinations. Speaking of traffic jams, Google announced today more features to its Maps app to make getting stuck somewhere a thing of the past. Among the features announced today include Live View navigating, which uses augmented reality to guide you as you walk, the inclusion of weather updates along your trip, and travel options for more eco-friendly or fuel-efficient routes. These are just a few of the 100 AI-powered improvements that the company plans to provide to the public this year, as it looks to maintain its market share dominance over competing products from companies such as Apple and Waze. Turning to the markets, U.S. indices were down today as investors continued to sell off their positions in the high-growth tech sector and rotate into value sectors that are looking to make a move as the economy recovery begins to pick up. Reporting from New York, Bobby Soriano, Eagle News. We live in interesting times.
Basketball fans enjoy this time of the year. Both the NCAA and the NBA are giving fans much to cheer about. In Alexandria, Virginia, EJ Gonzalez joins us tonight with the report. EJ?
Yes, thanks, Anna. Yes, lots of basketball went down last night in the women's and men's NCAA tournament, as well as the National Basketball Association. In the National Collegiate Athletic Association, or NCAA, the women of Baylor University and University of Connecticut went head-to-head in the Elite Eight. Baylor had the advantage up to the third quarter before their starting senior guard, Dede Richards, exited with a hamstring injury. At that time, Baylor had a 10-point lead, but UConn took advantage of Richards' absence and went on a 19-0 run and never looked back. However, the major headline today was how the game ended on a controversial no call. Baylor player Dejanay Carrington was smothered by two UConn defenders in the closing seconds, and video footage of the play showed UConn defenders' arms making contact with Carrington's face, causing her to incomplete the attempt to even the score. And here's what Baylor head coach Kim Mulkey had to say when she was asked about the play.
What did you see when Dejanay drove the ball from where you were standing?
What did you see?
I was surprised they didn't call a foul.
Then write it like that. You don't need a quote from me. I've got still shots and video from two angles. One kid hits her in the face and one kid hits her on the elbow.
Yes, despite the controversial no call, UConn went on to defeat Baylor 69-67, led by Paige Buchers to advance to their 13th consecutive Final Four appearance. And the Arizona Wildcats is the other women's NCAA team to reach the Final Four last night as they defeated the Indiana Hoosiers 66-53. Now for the men's division of the NCAA tournament, the University of Houston took on Oregon State in the Midwest region, where the winner would advance to the Final Four. 12th seed Oregon State hoped to continue their Cinderella run and led by as many as 17 points. However, the Houston Cougars said, "That's enough," roared back, and in the second half tied the game at 55 apiece with less than 4 minutes left in the game, and they also never looked back. Houston defeated Oregon State 67-61 and advanced to their first Final Four appearance in 37 years. And in the Southern region, first seed Baylor defeated the third seed University of Arkansas 81-72, and Baylor punched their ticket to the Final Four appearance for the first time since 1950. And lastly, in the NBA, Washington Wizards guard Russell Westbrook made triple-double history yet again. Westbrook led the Wizards to a win against the Indiana Pacers, where he finished the game with an absurd stat line, 35 points, 14 rebounds, and a career-high 21 assists. Russell is now the franchise holder for the most triple-doubles for the Wizards at 16 in just his first season with the team. He is also the first player to ever accomplish a 35-point and 20-assist triple-double in the history of the NBA. That's a wrap for the latest basketball-related news in Alexandria, Virginia. EJ Gonzalez, Eagle News. We live in interesting times. Back to you, Anna.
Thank you, EJ, for your sports update. Now, we know you're a Wizards fan, so tell us just how excited are you after that performance of Russell Westbrook?
Oh man, yeah, it was definitely awesome. You know, Russell here with the Wizards, you know, doing the same stuff he's been doing for the past several years. I've been following his career since 2015 when he was with OKC and Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant is also a Maryland native, or same county from where I grew up, which is why I fell in love with him and their team. But last night the Wizards badly needed the win, especially with the absence of Bradley Beal, who is currently the leading scorer of the NBA and of our team, obviously. But Russell was able to get everyone involved, to even new players who we acquired just last week before the trade deadline. And everyone on the team is just speaking highly about his leadership in just his first year there. And, despite our horrible record here in Washington, the Wizards still have a chance to turn their season around and make the playoffs, being just 2 games back from the 10th spot. And that's going to come at the hand of Russell's leadership, his ability of getting everyone involved. Tonight, they did lose to the Hornets. But again, the Wizards were missing a handful of their players due to injury, and that includes Bradley Beal. But yes, they still have a firm grasp, or they still have total control of their destiny in these upcoming games to make it to the playoff seeding.
It's spoken like an avid fan, TJ. Now you mentioned already some updates. Do you have any other updates from the NCAA games from tonight?
Yes. So I think they're concluding the Final Four. The last teams to make it to the Final Four this evening, and in the men's division, Gonzaga cruised by USC 85-66 tonight, and so Gonzaga remains undefeated this season, 30-0, and has claimed their anticipated spot in the Final Four. Right now, UCLA and Michigan are playing, with Michigan leading, and we are just going to have to wait and see who from them will claim that final spot in the Final Four. And in the women's division, also a blowout win by South Carolina, who defeated Texas 62-34, and they advanced to the Final Four. Now we just have to wait the winner of Louisville and Stanford. Louisville right now looks to be leading. So that's the latest right now in the NCAA tournament.
Now I know, EJ, you can talk basketball all night. But, I'm curious about, since you're there in the nation's capital and it is springtime, I've always wanted to see the cherry blossom there, but I have not had a chance. One of these seasons I will. So can you tell us anything about what's going on as far as the cherry blossoms?
Yeah, so actually peak bloom actually began early this year. The National Park Service, they anticipated that it would begin this Friday on April 2nd, but the blossoms reached peak bloom this past Sunday on March 28th. The blossoms peak bloom, they'll last till April 3rd. But with the ongoing pandemic, the National Park Service added fences around the perimeter of the tidal basin, and they've even closed the roads around the area. So yeah, this year's probably not a good idea for you to come over here and try and see them. But yeah, definitely in the future, all of us are so eager for this pandemic to pass over. But yeah, this year they're actually saying that because the DC area is currently assessed at a very high risk level, they're saying that it might be a good idea or a good year for people to just follow from afar from the safety of their homes. And they're saying you can easily just follow through social media and things like that. So yeah, this year I don't think we'll be going to view them in person as well. So whenever you do decide, Anna, to come over here, just let us know. My wife and I, we can tour you around DC.
I sure will. I would love that personal tour guide. For now, I guess I will have to just visit Bellagio here in Las Vegas. I don't know if you've been out. The Bellagio Botanical Garden. It is part of their display right now for spring.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Well, thank you, EJ, for all of your updates, and we'll talk to you a little bit in our roundtable discussion.
Thanks, Anna.
In more NBA news, Karl Anthony Towns speaks on seeing his father at a Timberwolves game for the first time since his mother passed away due to complications from COVID-19. Also, Kyrie Irving on his return to the Nets lineup. Tani Somage files this report.
Karl Anthony Towns grew up in nearby Edison, New Jersey, and has long been a Nets fan since the time the organization were based in the Garden State. His family, including his mother and father, would always be present at Barclays Center whenever Towns and the Timberwolves would visit. Towns' mother, Jacqueline, died last year to COVID-19. And his father hasn't seen his son play since. Last night, when the T-Wolves visited the Nets.
He understood how upset I was, losing and everything, but he came to me. He told me something that I don't know, he should have told me. It got me a little emotional, but he was just saying how like my mom would have been proud the way I played tonight. So, especially here saying that, my whole career started here. I got drafted here. The Nets have been part of my family for a long time. That was the first time. That was the only time I've ever went to an NBA game. So it was in the Nets, and I got to see the Nets play. And I got emotional before the game because he made his presence known when we were warming up and doing the 20 minutes under team out. And he made his presence known, and it affected me because, my mom always did that. My dad was never the one to make his presence known. My mom was the one that would go at the stanchion or be there and wave to me until I said hi to her or came and hugged her. So it was kind of different, It's the first time really having my family watch me play in person.
Another New Jersey native returns to the lineup. Brooklyn guard Kyrie Irving speaks about his team, plus defends his teammate James Harden in regards to MVP talks.
Missing time, especially when you got a good flow going, the team's got a good flow, it definitely hits you mentally because, just missing 3 days in the NBA seems like an eternity, or 4 games, or, whatever the case may be. So getting throwing myself back out there felt good. And like I said, I'm just grateful to be able to play this game with everything going on in the world. So, my teammates make it special, the coaching staff make it special, the fans make it special. It's my job to go out there and prepare and just put on a show and perform. Back home is easy. So, and when you throw some great pieces around a great player that's able to play point guard out there and just kind of be who he is, it's our job out there to be responsible for our roles, play it at a high level, then compliment him, and vice versa. So, we support him, and it's a team effort. It's team basketball out there. Our record is a reflection of how great we are as a team. But, in this league, individuals are very special, and you got to give credit when credit's due. So us as a team, we just want to continue to support them.
Tune in to Eagle News for more stories and highlights on the NBA throughout the season. In New York, Tenny Sumagi, Eagle News, we live in interesting times.
Thank you, Tenny, for your update. Up next, stories from Florida and North Carolina. Eagle News America will return shortly. Stay with us.
Events happen around us all the time, in our community, in our country, around the world. Events that affect people, move communities, or simply inspire us. Interesting events that people need to know. In these interesting times, we continue to be a competent partner in delivering news about these events. Fast, accurate, balanced. Eagle News, because we live in interesting times.
Hey there, Arnie Aquino here at Hatley Castle, one of the filming locations for the X-Men series. Don't forget to tune in to Digital Nest only on Net25.
Start up your weekday mornings with edutainment, news, and information kasama ang inyong paboritong Net25 shows. Samahan ang inyong paboritong morning barkada sa Pambansang Almusal at 5 a.m. Tatalakayin mga pangunahing balita sa pagtutulungan ng Radyo Agila at Net25. Samahan si Weng de la Fuente sa Balitalakayan, 7 a.m. Saganang Mamamayan at 8 a.m. NHK World at 9 a.m. Eagle News International at 10 a.m. At mga balitang dapat niyong malaman mula sa Agila, Pilipinas at 11 a.m. This is your morning startup every weekday mornings only here on Net25.
You're watching Eagle News America. I'm Anna Cui here in Las Vegas. And now we join EBC friend Ethel Constantino from Raleigh, North Carolina. She tells us how she reaches out to the homeless in her city.
Hello, I'm Ethel Constantino, and today on Eagle News, let's take a moment to share gifts of kindness to those in need. Driving around the city of Raleigh, I can't help but admire these towering and grandiose buildings. Edifices like this symbolize a city's financial growth and progression. But behind this splendid view is the sad truth that there are people who live on the streets because they do not have a roof over their head that they can call as their home. They are the homeless. Their homelessness makes them vulnerable to so many threats, which include but not limited to physical, mental, and health dangers. And with the recent emergence of the COVID-19 virus, they are now more than ever more susceptible to getting sick. We sincerely hope that through this simple present, we would be able to help them protect themselves from the virus and to feel that there are people who care about them. According to the Department of Housing and Urban Development, the United States have more than 500,000 homeless people on a single night in the year 2020. This is an increase of 2.2% from 2019.
Have a good day.
Lack of affordable housing is one of the top causes of homelessness. More than 40% of America's homeless population are people with disabilities. According to the National Alliance to End Homelessness, 40% of homeless people are African Americans. Males are more likely to be homeless than women. Owning a smartphone and having access to the internet doesn't mean that they are not poor. They need this to stay connected, especially for employment. A lot of us believe that people who are homeless should just get a job and then they would not be homeless. According to the National Coalition for the Homeless, 40 to 60% of people experiencing homelessness nationwide are employed.
I
got 3 elderly clients
okay.
out there living too. Can I get 3 more, please?
Okay.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate it. Y'all have a good day.
Over 70% of homeless persons are young adults below the age of 50. Aside from the government, there are organizations that assist and help the homeless. As a private individual, you can volunteer or donate to this cause.
Thank you. All right. Have a good day. Okay. All right.
I myself have a lot of misconceptions about the homeless. But seeing them smile as we give the gifts we prepared made me realize that when you help others, you don't question or judge. You give because it's what your heart genuinely wants. And I pray that everyone will have their own safe and permanent place that they can call their home. In Raleigh, North Carolina, I'm Ethel Constantino, Eagle News. We live in interesting times.
Thank you, Ethel, for giving us such an update on that report and also for leading as a great example for doing such simple acts of kindness. Now, the weather in many parts of the country is warming up. You know, here in Las Vegas, it's been in the 70 degrees Fahrenheit or 21, 22 degrees Celsius. Today, that was the high. And there are changes in the landscape. But we're not just seeing changes in the landscape, but we're also seeing, I personally am seeing a change in attitudes and behavior of many people. You know, they seem to be more smiley, more brightened, with a brightened look. So spring is definitely here. So let's go to our two gentlemen here, and let's talk about what spring means to you. We'll start with you, Thomas.
Well, I got to say, I agree with you. You see that change in attitude, and it's because we're coming out, at least up here in Canada, very big deal up here in Canada, because our 4 seasons are very distinct. So we're just coming out of that cold, bleak winter, and like you say, it's such a contrast to see the landscape greening up, lots of sunshine. I love it. The birds are chirping, temperatures are rising. It's warm. I can go out for a walk now without having to put on several layers of warm clothes, those heavy boots, so I can trudge through the deep snow out there in the cold. You know, there's just such a newness about the season. It's my favorite. I mean, what else can I say? Of course, my attitude is going to be very, very much brightened just because of the change in environment up here. But definitely my favorite season.
Yes, I agree. Spring seems to have that, brings about the best and the best in people, especially right now, you know, after what we've gone through, right, Thomas? And I'm jealous, actually. You mentioned you have 4 seasons there in Canada. Here in
I'm jealous of you folks down there in the desert. You have
in
what,
Las Vegas,
one and a half seasons?
Yep, we don't. Exactly, we don't. But we don't necessarily get to see 4 seasons. You know.
See, I love spring. I love spring. I like summer. I can tolerate fall, and I absolutely dislike winter.
Yes, well, we seem to jump into summer too soon, but we do get like maybe a few days of nice weather here in the 70s. Now, what about you over there, EJ?
Oh yeah, spring. I mean, you know, it's just awesome to have warm weather again. Like Tom was saying. Yeah, just so simple, like going outside to take out the trash. I'd have to layer up and put on a jacket just to bring my trash from the backyard to the front yard over here. But yeah, now I can wear my sandals or my chinelas and just go outside real quick in my shorts, and you know, not have to worry too much about that. Here it does get out heavy in pollen, so. But when I was younger, I didn't have any allergies, but now it just seems to have an effect on me. So it's just a good reminder for me to go and get, you know, that allergy medicine and some eye drops.
Well, at least it doesn't last throughout the year, right? Only.
Oh yeah.
So that is definitely one of the downfall of spring.
Well, you know, one of the nice parts is you can sit out in the backyard for a little bit, like you were saying, EJ. You don't have to layer up to make it to take out the garbage or over to the garage. You can actually. My wife has actually started to do a little bit of cleanup in the yard and getting ready to put in the garden. She can't wait for that. She just.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I would need some tutoring in that field then to do my yard.
Me too. I mean, I plant simple stuff like dillweed and it dies on me, so I don't do the gardening here.
Yeah, I have been out in our front yard just to pick up some weeds a couple weekends ago because it was so nice out. You know, we have to enjoy it here in Las Vegas because before we know it, we are hitting the three digit in the weather. So
yeah, that's right.
Thank you.
You've got those high temperatures there.
Yeah.
Yes, we absolutely do. Thank you, Thomas and EJ, for sharing with us what spring means to you. Now, as always, we end the program with a salute to our healthcare workers, first responders, and essential workers. All of you out there on the front line, we give you all a round of applause. We truly appreciate each and every one of you. That is today's Eagle News America. Thank you for joining us. I'm Anna Kui, and we live in interesting times.